Welcome to My Life. I'm John Ochins, and I'm here with our friend Ed Brakefield. Ed has been a resident of our area for over 40 years. In addition to that, he's on the Addison Board of Trustees, and he's been involved with things like bringing natural gas to Addison Township, to the building of a new town hall, to the movement of an old schoolhouse out there. And there have even been articles written about Ed and his lovely wife Kathy going green. And believe it or not, he attended the minor high school and graduated in 1968.
Been a while.
And you know how I know all this stuff?
How did you know that?
Because I went to the source of all knowledge, the internet, and found out.
Is that right?
But welcome, Ed. We're certainly glad to have you with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Just off the top of my head here, what's the latest and greatest that's going on in Addison Township these days?
Oh, our township hall. It's being remodeled now, and it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be user-friendly. It's going to be very welcoming. Not only the inside, but the outside is going to be very nice, and it's going to fit our township just perfect.
And when do they expect to have that finished?
Well, we're starting it right now, so we should be working on it, and it should be finished early next year, or definitely next year. It'll be all finished, and people will be using it.
Now, I heard a rumor that you're thinking of retiring. Is that right?
Well, that's a rumor.
Okay.
Right now, it's a rumor that I've been in. I was elected in the office in 1996. That would, in 2016, would give me 20 years as a trustee. So it's been a while. I say I wanted to retire as a trustee. Some people are saying don't do it. And unfortunately, for this township, I'm hearing more don't retires than I am retire.
Well,
so
it's
a lot of
probably
people are trying to get me to stay.
Because people realize that you're probably one of the only ones who knows where everything is out there.
Well, I was part of the writing of the master plan. I might say 3 master plans have my name in it. The Planning Commission, the zoning ordinance book has my name in it. So yeah, I could say my name is in a lot of the periodicals that belong to the township now.
Well, another thing that you and your lovely wife are involved with is raising Arabian horses, and we're going to talk more about that later. I mentioned Minor High School in Alabama. Fact of the matter is you are originally from Alabama, aren't you? Where were you born and raised?
Birmingham, Alabama. I was born and raised till I joined the Navy and back in
Tell me a little bit about what did your parents do down there?
My dad worked in the U.S. Steel. That was the big projects in Alabama, Birmingham. They had steel plants. That was where all of the steel, they competed with Bethlehem Steel. So the U.S. Steel and almost everybody in our general area worked at U.S. Steel.
Did your mother work outside?
No, she was
the
a
home?
stay-at-home mom.
Was she? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any siblings?
My 2 sisters, and both are stay-at-home moms right now. Well, Robin, my youngest sister, became a associate youth pastor at our church.
Really?
So I'm real proud of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your home life down in Alabama. What was your school like that you went to? You were in Birmingham, so it was a pretty big city.
Yeah. Birmingham, Minor High School was more like in the rural area. We weren't in the thick of the city. So we were on the outskirts. I think we were well known for our football team.
Were you really?
Yeah, the football team did great. And I wasn't on it, but boy, I went to every game if I could. But the school itself was a fairly large school. It wasn't we had probably 1,200 students. Nowadays, 1,200 is in one class, but there in Alabama, and that school we'd have about 1,200 in the whole school.
Were you involved in athletics at all when you were in high school?
No, I was a school bus driver.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, and that was, to be a bus driver, it was just about as enjoyable as being into the sports. You were in the clique, if you will, of the special teams, if you will. You're a bus driver. So
are you saying since you were a bus driver, you were a chick magnet? Or?
It's kind of like that. That was what it was. Back then, it was a chick magnet. If you were a bus driver, you might as well be a quarterback or a bus driver, one of the two.
What kind of hobbies did you have?
Guitar playing. That's what I did. When I was as young as I could remember, my dad was a guitar teacher, and he started teaching me how to play the guitar when I was probably 7 years old. I became a teacher still in high school. I was probably in the 10th grade when I became a guitar teacher for a company called Archer Guitar School. And I taught guitar up until when I joined the Navy.
Tell me more about your dad as a guitar teacher.
Well,
Where did he learn to play the guitar?
Archer Guitar School. Archer
Same
Guitar
place.
School was it's a large school, still in operation right now, family owned and operated. He was friends with a gentleman named Hardy Archer, and Hardy Archer had started this guitar school. So my mom went and bought my dad a Gibson guitar back in I would say 50s, Gibson acoustic, electric acoustic, and so Mr. Archer started teaching my dad how to play. And I'm very fortunate because when my dad passed away, I got that Gibson guitar. So the Gibson is put away and it's not going to be damaged. I've already had it checked over by a Gibson reseller or repair company, and they gave it a clean bill of health, and they checked everything and made sure everything was original on it, and I've put it away now. So for my children.
Had your family lived in Alabama for a long, long time?
All their life. Yep.
How far back could you go with that?
To the Alabama people?
Yeah.
The
Well,
Brakefields?
Let's say, who were the first Brakefields to come to this country? Do you know?
Yes. The first. I am doing an ancestry check right now, and I've passed right now the Brakefields till they came aboard, and they were from Scotland. And before that, I've gone about 4 generations before they came to America. And don't even ask me their names. I'm working on it right now, but I know Christopher Brakefield was one of the first ones. And when they came to America, they had the name Brakefield. And as they came into America, for some reason, Brakefield must have not have made one of the children happy, and he named himself Brakefield and got it legalized. And for a small time, one brother was Brakefield and one brother was Brakefield, and the branches went off. And so we're doing a research right now, and it's very, very detailed. It's like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah. Roughly what year did they come to this country? Not the exact year, but approximate.
1801.
Right around the beginning of the 1800s.
Yeah.
I
And
see.
I've got it going back to the 1600s, so I'm working on it.
That's great. I think a lot of people, that happened to a lot of people as far as the last name goes. I think when some of our ancestors got off the boat, there was a government employee there who kind of listened to them say their name real fast and sounded it out and then wrote the way they thought it sounded.
That's probably what happened.
But anyway, I want to get back to the guitars.
Yes.
What kind of music did your dad play?
Country and Western.
Really?
That was it. Yep. He was a country guy all the way through. Yep.
Did he do more with it than just give lessons?
Oh yeah, he played at, he formed a small group, and I can't remember the name of it, but I can remember the place he played. And unusual, I can't remember the name of the band, but in his Concordia Club he played at, and I just remembered his buddy Brakefield and something, so I just remembered my dad. I got to play with him a couple of times, but he played the country music. And
Did that go back any farther than your dad, the
no,
instrumental thing?
no, my dad it went with my dad, and actually I would say in the early 60s or late 50s is when he started playing, because when my mom got him the guitar was to take guitar lessons.
Okay, we got to take a break right now, but we'll be right back with Ed Brakefield.
Your local business.
Your police department.
Your local business.
Your Village of Oxford.
The schools. Your parks and recreation.
Your community.
Your community.
Only on OCTV.
Here with Addison Township trustee Ed Brakefield, and we went way back to the Birmingham, Alabama days. Ed was telling us about how he played and taught guitar.
Yep.
Ed, what was the name of that school again that you taught?
Called Archer Guitar School.
Okay, how old were you when you started teaching it there?
I started teaching when I was in about the 10th grade, and I taught guitar until I joined the Navy.
Okay.
So, I
And
left all the
did you
guitars at
play
home.
out? Did you play country western yourself primarily, or
Primarily, yeah.
Okay. And did you play out at events and
The
things?
only
or?
event that I really played at is during the football banquet for minor high school. They asked me if I would play, and I said I didn't have a group to play for them, and they said we didn't want a group, we wanted just you by yourself.
Wow.
And it was
Solo.
solo, just me by myself, and it was very memorable event because it went well, and I played probably for almost 2 hours and never repeated the same song.
Did you sing as well?
No, I just played
Just played.
music. Played music behind the banquet while they were eating. I played my guitar, and they thoroughly enjoyed it.
I hope somebody filmed that.
It's been a long time.
I know.
I wish they had of, but they didn't.
All right, now we're talking. These were Elvis Presley days. We're talking in the '60s. Did you play any rock and roll?
No, I didn't
Weren't
play
even
any rock and
tempted?
roll. Wasn't even tempted. I was the good old Johnny Cash, Elvis Presley, Buck Owens era. But today, I couldn't play any of them.
Really?
I put the guitars away and started my new hobby with the horses, and it started playing a little less and less every day, and horses more and more every day, and the next thing you know, that day I didn't play, and the next day I didn't play, and so now I've got a whole stack of my guitars, but I've got one set out, so I play it ever so often, but and I'm trying to go back in time. I've got my music.
Sure.
I do have music from when I started. Back in the 10th grade, I've got all the music still stacked up in
Isn't
file
it funny
drawers.
how you save that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs. And it's funny because I've got individual song sheets, and nowadays, all you have to do is type the name on the computer, and you've got it. It's that's what you were saying earlier. The internet is a wonderful tool. So I've got a lot of papers that I could give to the church for a paper drive now, because I've got any song I want just at my command. Just type it on the computer and the sheet comes up.
Did your folks try to steer you in any particular direction occupationally as you were going through high
No.
school?
No. The only thing that they told me, my dad told me, is do your best at everything you can do and give everything as if you're working for God. And
Had either of your parents gone to college themselves?
Neither one.
Neither?
Neither one went to college. My dad dropped out of school in the 8th grade. Times were tough then. His mom had passed away when he was real young. And my mother went through all the way through high school, but it was the school of hard knocks back then. And so that was when my dad was one of the best dads anybody could ever ask for.
Yeah. So what was going through your mind in high school? Did you have a particular direction that you really were thinking of going in?
My biggest direction that I was thinking about going in is how could I skip school that day and get away with it? And I figured it out. If I went up and started helping doing the bus driving, gassing up the buses and checking everything, I could get out of class. So I mastered skipping class and getting credit for it still. So, but no, I didn't have a direction I was going toward in high school. And so it was just survive, go to school and get out.
And of course, we have to remember that these were the days of Vietnam.
Oh,
and
yeah.
as you approached graduation, I'm sure that went through your mind
It
very
was-
heavily as,
was there.
what am I going to do next?
Well, when I was graduating, right when I graduated, I got a letter from was it not the Navy, but the military.
The draft board?
The draft board saying, you're going to be drafted soon. Now that we see you're out of the Navy, out of high school, and I was still in
was
high
that the
school.
lottery time? Did you get
It
a
was the
lottery
lottery,
number?
and I got a number, and I was going to go. So I hustled before I even graduated to join something, because my options were to join something or go on the front lines as either Army or
That's right.
Marine. And my dad was in the Navy when he was growing up, and I wanted to be just like my dad. So I did join the Navy, and again, what he said to me earlier, do your best, and give it all to God, and do work for God, and I did that.
Sounds like your folks were very religious.
Yeah, both are in heaven right now.
Were
yes.
they affiliated with any particular church or?
Yes, and again, I'm so proud of my dad. It's people would not believe this if they heard it, but this is fact. He belonged to a church called Bellevue Baptist Church, and he was one of the elders, and it was a church that had funding, and it was a beautiful church. But the congregation, they lost their preacher, and then he kept trying to get other preachers in. The elders were there, but then one or two elders kept dropping out. The congregation got smaller and smaller, and it started costing them money to run this church. And in the bylaws of the church is they could split up the money when it was done. So they could have sold off the property and kept all the funds, and they could have distributed all the stuff amongst the few elders that were there. All the elders decided we're going to donate this church to another church. So they went down the street and asked this church, would they like to have the church as a gift? And they gave the property, the church, everything in it, including all the funds, to the local church called Sandusky Baptist. And Sandusky then, because they were so small, they moved up into Bellevue, and now the Bellevue is called Sandusky Baptist. And I'm so proud of my dad to do that, because materialism didn't get to him.
Wow.
Isn't that nice?
Yes. Okay, so you signed up with the Navy.
Yes.
Where'd they send you for basic training?
Pensacola, Florida. No, basic Orlando, Florida.
Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you probably spent 8 weeks down there.
Yep. I took. That's where I took all my exams and everything like that.
So tell me what happened right after that.
After boot camp or
After
in
boot
boot
camp.
camp? Well, during boot camp, that's when we had to take all of our tests and all of our shots and all of our exercises and all the parade routines. And during the exams, I studied. I studied hard. Instead of just taking it like it was Navy, I studied like it was a career. And I did the very best I could do. And I did perfect on every test. There was no answers that I missed. So that gave me the choice anywhere I wanted, or any branch or that I wanted to be in the Navy. And this was kind of a nice story. It's the one last place was a place that had a closed door on it, and
Wait.
it said,
I'm going to pause this right here for just a minute because I know this is going to be an interesting story, and I want you to be able to finish it. So we need to take a break, but we'll be right back. Don't go away. Back with Ed Brakefield from Madison Township. Ed, you were telling us a story
Yeah.
from basic training.
so you could join as a boilerman or a radarman or Airedale or whatever you wanted. And I'm going down the line picking up the brochures. It was like going to college. They wanted you to join their group. When I got to the end, there was a table there with a guy and a door, nothing else. And I said, what's going on here? What are you giving away? And he said, behind the door. You won't know anything until you go behind the door. And I was so curious. And I did qualify. So he said, you're welcome to go behind the door, but when you go back, you can't come back out. You've got to choose to go into that field. And that really got to my attention. And I chose to go through, and I went behind the door and talked to the people, and it was naval intelligence. And it was a lot of fun from that point on, and I'm glad I chose that field because it was a little cut above all the
And
rest.
it's nothing you would have thought of. Did you even consider that ahead
Never
of time?
ever considered it. It was just curiosity, if you will, the proverbial kill the cat.
Yeah.
I had a great tour, and that was one of the nice things about being in the position that I was in. I had a lot of other privileges that came along with that the other people didn't get.
So where did they send you for your next training?
Pensacola, Florida.
Pensacola.
Yep, Pensacola. I went there, and I had to learn Morse code and learned a few different languages, which I've forgotten since then because it's been a long
Different,
time.
you mean verbal languages?
Written languages.
Written language, okay.
Mhm. And then that was for about 8 weeks. And then after that, I had my choice of anywhere in the world I had a choice anywhere.
And that's remarkable because remember, this was during the Vietnam War.
It was during the war.
And a lot of people
Yes.
didn't have that choice.
I had, like I said earlier, I had a few privileges better than other people did in the Navy. And I chose Honolulu, Hawaii, of course. And of course I went there. And that's where I was based for the most of my tour, is in Hawaii.
That was a tough post.
It was tough. I mean, I had a nice little gift waiting on me when I got there. I had my apartment off base, and I had a little blue Fiat waiting on me when I got there. So
Well, you know, to do better than that, you'd have to play in the band.
I know, I didn't. So, but yeah, I had the run of what I wanted to do in Hawaii. I did drive my little Fiat around, and I did live off base.
So what kind of stuff did they have you do, though, on the job there while you were in Hawaii? I'm sure you probably had to monitor different things and...
Yeah, let's just say paperwork. I had a lot of paperwork
Okay.
to do. And then that's about it.
Okay.
I want to talk about that.
All right, very good. So how long were you in Hawaii altogether?
2 years.
2
About
years.
2 years.
And it was during that time that you met your wife.
Yes. Yeah, I was there when I met Kathy.
Tell me about that.
The Navy would let me fly back and forth to the States from Hawaii. And those people that were in the military would be familiar with this very well. It's military standby. So I would fly back and forth, and I enjoyed that. So every time I could get on the plane, I was out of there. Well, this one time I was flying, and then flying in from the States to Hawaii, we would all meet in San Francisco. I believe it was San Francisco or Los Angeles. That was 20 years ago. And so what I did is, it's different then than it is now. You could choose your seat. So I asked the gentleman at the ticket booth to wait till the cutest girl came in and sit me next to her. And so I gave him my ticket, and he set it off to one side. And then girls came in, and girls sat down, and girls, but it was this guy thought, oh, this girl's really cute. And he looked up at me, and he held my ticket up, and he said, that one? And I said, yes, that's the one I want to sit next to. And I did. I sat next to Kathy, and for the whole trip in the flight, we got to know each other, and I asked her on a date, and she accepted my date when I was in Hawaii. It was kind of impressive because when the plane came in and it landed, here I had my little blue Fiat with the preacher's daughter driving, because she said she wasn't going to drive her car to the airport. She would drive mine to pick me up. And I told her, go ahead. Now, if you could imagine what you see when you get off the plane and you're getting your luggage, is here's this blonde-headed girl driving a Fiat, picking this Navy guy up. It's like, this is right out of the movies. But it was she wouldn't drive her car. It was mine or nothing. She would I'd have to get a taxi back to the base. So I said, take my car and pick me up. But
Okay, was she there on vacation, or why was she
my
there?
wife, yes, she was on vacation. Her and her sister and her friend. And they decided to go on a vacation together. And that's when I met them.
Okay, so they were there for 1 or 2 weeks or something
Maybe a
like
week.
that?
I think it was about a week. And I asked her to go out the first night. And I told her I'd give her a tour of Hawaii because I was the big tour guide and I knew all about Hawaii. And well, like I said, she accepted it. And that's when we started going out.
Now, a little bird told me that you tried to propose to her before she left. Is that true?
Yeah, well, yeah. What we did, Hawaii is very romantic. And right before she left, I told her she would be the one person I would love to spend the rest of my life with. And she said, not bad. We'll see what happens in a year from now if we feel the same way.
Did tiny bubbles enter into this in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah. What we did before she came back. She came back to Hawaii after about 6 months. We were engaged. We officially became engaged. I gave her a ring. I was still in Hawaii. She was here in Michigan. And so as the wedding was getting closer, I couldn't really get off to get here to get married. So we invited everybody we knew to go to Hawaii to join us at our wedding. And we were at a Don Ho show one night and watching the show progress. And as the MC comes over and, are you tourists and everything like that, I said, no, I'm here, but we're getting ready for our wedding. And then oh, that's great and all this. Well, after the show, Don Ho came up to us and said, why don't you let us take care of your wedding? And this is unbelievable. And yes, Don Ho did cater our wedding at the Ala Moana Hotel. It was unbelievable.
Now, did your parents fly over there and everything for
My
that?
parents couldn't make it, but Kathy's side of the family, both of her parents, most of her siblings made it. My friends were all in Hawaii. My Navy friends,
Right.
my friends from high school. You got to remember, this is 4 years after, or close to it, and so they really weren't even invited, I'm sorry to say. But my friends from the Navy were there. We had a pretty nice crowd.
So what year were you married?
72.
1972.
Yeah.
Okay, so how much longer did you have to go in the service after that?
About not quite a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were you thinking about doing when you got back to town, and which
Yeah.
town were you going to get back to?
Well, it was pretty well cut and dried. When I met Kathy's dad, was a great gentleman, fantastic man. He invited me to go to work at his company. He owned a company called Conveyor-Matic, which was around the second largest privately owned conveyor company in Michigan. And I didn't have to think very long.
Had you ever been to Michigan before?
No.
What did your folks think about all this?
They didn't like it very much, but they knew that I was in good hands. Kathy's family were great people. They met them. My mom and dad fell in love with her family. And just as easy as I fell in love with Kathy, both families fell in love with each other. And it was great. We did visit a lot. We talked all the time on the phone. So it was just like I was back home. I would go back and forth when I could.
Okay. All right. We are going to pick up Ed Brakefield Part 2, Ed Brakefield in Michigan, on our next program. Thank you for joining us. You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the village of Leonard.